Hello everyone! We are exploring the topic of thinking skills in level 2 of power skills. In the previous video, I spoke about the fact that thinking is a skill that can be developed. I also discussed the three main areas of thinking we are going to explore in this level. There are many more, but we're going to explore three: self-image and beliefs, critical thinking, and creativity. I also shared the three strategies for you to develop your thinking skill in general. Mindfulness, number one, reading and doing exploration or research. And again, I remind you that in the back of your workbook, you do have an appendix on how to do meaningful research. Now I want us to focus on the topic of self-image, beliefs, and limiting beliefs, and why those are super important when we begin our career and when we begin our journey to catapult either our career or our business. And to exemplify that, I would like to take you back in time. And I would like to take you to a small Spanish village in Castilla to meet Juan, an 18-year-old baker. And I want us to explore how his day looks like. Now, before we explore his day, let me tell you something that I'm sure you know, but just for us to be on the same page. No internet, no electricity. Juan cannot read and write. He has never been to school. He is the son of poor bakers, and he's inheriting the job of his father. He never thought what he wants to do in life. He knows that he will inherit the bakery of his father. He wakes up at 6 a.m. to prepare the bakery. Now remember, there is no electricity, so he needs coal to put into the oven to light the fire. Then he needs to go and fetch some water from the well because there is no running water in the bakery. So he might travel 1 kilometer to the well and then back with water. So once he prepared the oven, the fire with coal, he starts to make the dough for the bread with his two hands. Once he made all the pieces of bread, and that's a lot of bread and a lot of manual labor, he puts them in the oven. And it takes some time for the bread to get ready. Then he takes it out, brings it to the shop, and he's back at home at about 7 or 8 p.m. after a very intense day of manual physical labor. If he's lucky and he has a girlfriend, he will sleep out and go to talk to her. If not, he would just do some household chores and go to bed. I want to make a note. There are some historical inconsistency in this tale that I'm telling you, but in order for us to save time, let's keep it this way. And when I say inconsistency, I mean that the process of bread making is even more complicated and harder than what I described, but I just want us to move forward with the story and not go into details of how bread was actually made. So Juan does not know how to read or write. If he has a girlfriend, probably he will marry her when he turns 19, and she would be the one and only relationship he will have for his entire life. Life expectancy would be 50, maybe 60, or even 40. And Juan will spend his life knowing not more than the village of Castilla and probably some other neighboring village. He would work 6 days a week, very intense labor. Now, I want us to go to 21st century in Madrid and meet 18-year-old Juan. He barely wakes up at 7 a.m. and he's super tired because he spent the previous night watching series on Netflix. He's super tired. As he slowly opens his eyes, he feels that kind of not good feeling when you've not slept enough. Also, let's remember that the brain recharges in deep sleep in specific hours of the night, which are usually between 10 p.m. and 12 p.m. and then 12 p.m. and 2 a.m. And Juan has missed both. Super tired, grumpy, bad mood. He wakes up grabs his phone, the first thing that he sees is that his best friend was out with a girl he has a crush on the previous night while Juan was watching Netflix. Already something to think about. He rushes to school and is late for first period. Second period, he has a test. He doesn't do so well on his test because he didn't study the previous night, and he thinks to himself, I'm such a loser, I'm never going to make it. So he wakes up, and the first thing that he sees, his friend with the girl he has a crush on, tells him, I'm not gonna make it. No good girl will go out with me. He's late for first period, doesn't make good results on the test in second period. I'm not good enough, I'm a failure. Someone bumps on him in the corridor, and probably he does that because he was in a rush, but Juan internalized this as everyone is after me. Why are they doing this? After school, he drinks a couple of energy drinks, which mess up his circadian rhythm even more and add to his depression. Juan, in the 21st century, can read and write. At the age of 18, he has already had 2 relationships. But most importantly, Juan has 2 things which are great and at the same time mess up his mind massively. First, he has a lot of time. He doesn't do manual labor. He has a lot of time to think, to overthink, and to interpret reality. Second, he has instantaneous access to huge information, something that the human brain has never before experienced in human history, and something that the human brain is not prepared for. But what is even more important than the fact that Juan has too much time to think, he can also read, write, and this kind of helps with overthinking, and he has access to so many dopamine hits and to so many stimuli throughout the day. Those 2 things are important, but there is an underlying software which is making those things depress Juan or motivate him. And that underlying software is his self-image and the beliefs he holds about himself and the world. So the self-image of Juan will determine whether he would interpret something as a failure or permanent failure or as an opportunity. The self-image of Juan will determine to what extent he would be sensitive to certain events and to what extent he will endure and be resilient. So I believe that the concept of self-image in today's world, where we have too much time to think and too many stimuli which are playing with this software and making us tell ourselves stories, is very important. And I would like us to look at the self-image from the perspective of psychology, neuroscience, and primal therapy. So self-image is the idea that we have of ourselves. Usually, this is all the subconscious beliefs we hold about ourselves, who we are, what we can do, what we deserve, how other people see us, what is possible for us. And many of those beliefs are not conscious. None of us is walking on the street and thinking, I'm not good enough. But as we walk the streets and we see someone who is more attractive than us, this underlying software, it's making an interpretation, is telling a story about what we're observing, and is creating a habit thought pattern. So let's explore what is self-image from the perspective of psychology. So psychology tells us that our self-image are the messages that we have internalized from repeated or painful early experiences we had, and especially messages that we got early in childhood from parents, teachers, and peers. So when something which was emotionally intense happened, especially in childhood, we formed a belief. And the more we think about that belief, it becomes a thinking habit. From a psychological perspective, the self-image are core beliefs we hold about ourselves. like I'm not good enough, I won't be able to succeed, I cannot cope with problems. And psychology helps us rethink and reshape those beliefs. One really good strategy that we can use to rethink and reshape limiting beliefs is the so-called Socratic questioning. Although this is a purely mental exercise, by questioning those beliefs, like are those beliefs always true? What is the evidence this belief is true? How do I know this belief is true? Is there evidence this belief is not true? Is this belief true in every circumstance? So by Socratic questioning, we can start reshaping and rethinking those beliefs. And this is the psychological perspective. Now, let's look at what neuroscience tells us about the self-image. So neuroscience tells us that a belief is a neuron pathway. A belief is a neural pathway of different neurons or different areas of our brain which are wired together due to repeated thought. So the more we repeat a thought or an emotion, the more different neurons are wired together. So beliefs are not just an abstract concept. They are material concepts in our brain. They are material networks of neurons in our brain. Because when we hold a belief and we repeat thinking or emotional patterns related or stemming from that belief, we are making that connection even stronger. The tools neuroscience gives us to transform limiting belief is powerful, and I believe more powerful than psychology. So if your belief is a habit of thinking, of emotion, or is a neuron pathway which is activated through certain thinking and emotional habits, you can rewire your brain by starting to think and act differently, and especially to act differently. So the more you act as if this belief was not true, the more you act as if you are good enough, as if you are confident, the more you're going to rewire your brain. There is a feedback loop between what you think and what you do, but also between what you do and what you think. And a lot of times when you consistently do actions that prove your belief wrong, you're changing your belief. Neuroscience gives us really good tools to change our self-image and transform our limiting beliefs by literally developing the habit to think different thoughts and do different actions. Now, let's look at what primal therapy is telling us about limiting beliefs. Primal therapy is not recognized by science, but as a primal therapist, I have seen that it does miracles, and it's the best instrument I have encountered in my career to transform limiting beliefs. Primal therapy deals with childhood trauma. According to primal therapy, limiting beliefs and unfunctional self-image is the result of early painful experience in childhood. Also, limiting beliefs are formed when a child's needs were not met. Let me give you a super simple example. A baby is crying. However, the mother is really dedicated to helping another child which is in need and cannot help and cannot hold the baby in this moment. The baby, although doesn't have these complex conceptual ideas in their head, would internalize this as I'm not lovable. And in older years will develop the limiting belief I'm not lovable and behaviors associated with it. So primal therapy really helps us get to the root of limiting beliefs, which is early childhood, painful experience where we made an internalization, not even conceptual, at a deeper body and somatic level. And primal therapy gives us a key how to transform limiting beliefs by living those painful childhood feelings and freeing from them, breaking free from them, but also by becoming the parent of our internal child, by as adults becoming the parent that we needed as a child, someone who gives ourselves affection, who gives ourselves affirmation. Now, in your rituals and protocols, you do have some protocols related to primal therapy and some visualizations, and I believe those are powerful and will definitely help you. Now, I think by now you have a fairly good idea of what limiting beliefs and self-image is. The reason why this is important is because we can only produce results which are congruent with our self-image. And even if we produce different results, it's usually after too many efforts and too much suffering. Our self-image is equal to the success that we can have in this world. And when we want to catapult our career, when we want to catapult our business, transforming our self-image to be aligned with our goals, with our ambitions, is crucial. And again, you have rituals and protocols to do that. Now, before I move to today's challenge, I would like to stress a final thing, a final key idea on limiting beliefs. I want you to think of limiting beliefs as a plant in your mind. Now, that plant in your mind is taking up your psychological resources, is taking up energy, is taking up emotion, and it's taking space that can be used for creative, critical, and analytical thinking. So think of it as a plant. If you want to get rid of this plant, you need to get to the bottom of its root and get rid of it. If you get rid of part of the plant, it will grow again and it will grow again and it will become stronger. So our goal here is to get to the root of the limiting belief and take it out. Now I want to invite you to do the challenge on limiting beliefs and self-image in your program and in your notebook. This is a one-time challenge, but I invite you to also choose a protocol or a ritual you're going to do to start taking out those unfunctional limiting beliefs from your mind, as this is something that would greatly enhance your success. Just like any other thinking skills, recognizing our limiting beliefs and being able to transform them requires honesty, requires effort, and requires consistency. So I invite you to choose a ritual and protocol you're going to do at least for 3 or 7 days, if not for more, in order to transform your self-image. And I would like to leave you on a positive note. As human beings, we're incredibly resilient. Even people who believe they're not enough accomplish great things. Yet, transforming those limiting beliefs can catapult you and get you to your goals faster and easier. Because what is catapult your career? It's helping you catapult your career, your business, and your life path. I invite you to do the challenge in your workbook and program. And most importantly, I challenge you to choose a ritual or protocol to start doing in order to transform or improve your self-image. And I will see you in the next video.